I'll tell you a little bit about myself before I start. I'm from Westboro. I wasn't lucky enough to go to Bancroft. I went to St. John's. Grandfather, father, uncle, and older brother all went there, so they basically said, "You're going to St. John's." But I'm glad I went there. It was great. I got a great education. But my cancer story actually starts a few years before I got cancer. I was 14 years old, and I was having symptoms. And they weren't pleasant symptoms. They were going to the bathroom a lot, diarrhea. I found blood when I went to the bathroom. It wasn't fun. I didn't tell anyone about it. I would tell my mom I have a stomach ache, which happened, but it just, symptoms came and went, but I let them go. I let the symptoms go and go and go until finally, when I was a freshman at St. John's, it was in December, and I couldn't stand up straight. My side hurt so much that I was like, I had to go like this to make the pain go away. And so finally, I told my mom, I need to go to a doctor. Something's wrong. This is months and months after I started having symptoms. And I went to the doctor, and he said, I think it's just a little indigestion. But I didn't say, look, this has been going on for months. I had this, this, and this. I just said, oh, okay. And I left the doctor. And I went home, and it was still getting worse. And a neighbor of mine who lived across the street, my mother called him, and he came over and looked at me, and he's like, I think your appendix is about to burst. So he sent me to the ER to get surgery, and when they opened me up, they found there were holes in my intestines. My intestines were basically rotting away, and I had Crohn's disease. Has anyone heard of Crohn's disease? Yeah. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease my freshman year in high school. And they did surgery. They took out 1.5 feet of my intestines. And I survived. I still have Crohn's today, but my symptoms, I've only been to the hospital once since I was diagnosed, which is really good for someone with Crohn's. But I learned my lesson. Flash forward to 3 years later when I was a senior in high school, and I started having really bad headaches and double vision. And I was like, that's not right. And so I immediately told my mother, I was like, I need to go to the doctor, something's wrong. And I have contact lenses, so I thought something was wrong with my contacts. So I went to my eye doctor, he's like, I don't know what's wrong. I went to another doctor, he didn't know. I was finally referred to an ophthalmologist, neurologist, and he looked me over, and he could tell something was wrong. But he didn't know what. So my mother and I were about to get up and leave the doctor's office, and my mother said, should we call you if his headaches get worse? And he looked at my chart like he didn't know I was having headaches. Like, that was one of my symptoms. And he was like, oh, headaches? And he ordered a CAT scan that day. This is 3 days after I turned 18. And so I'm sitting on the CAT scan. Has anyone ever gotten a CAT scan? Yeah, they're a lot of fun. So I'm sitting on the CAT scan machine, and they took the pictures, and the technician came in, and she said, we're going to remove this plate behind your head and lean your head back because the doctor wants more pictures. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I knew they found something because there's no way. I had been to the doctors a lot for my Crohn's, so I knew how doctors acted. I was like, they wouldn't want more pictures if there was nothing there. So I sat there, and every swear that I had ever heard of was going through my brain. I probably invented a few, I think. And I was like, what am I going to do? They're going to find something. What's it going to be? And then I thought of my mom, who was waiting outside for me. And I was like, oh, crap. I can't look like I'm scared. I have to tell her everything's going to be fine, and I have to believe it. So immediately I was like, all right, whatever they find, I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. And I went out after the CAT scan was over, and I went out and I saw my mom. And I could tell by the look on her face that I was like, crap, it's bad news. So she told me they found a tumor in my brain. And I hugged her, I actually laughed, and I was like, Mom, it's fine. Like, I was at UMass in Worcester, and that's where I was treated for my Crohn's, and I was like, they took care of my Crohn's, they're going to take care of my cancer. Don't worry about it, Mom. I'm going to be fine. And that's the attitude I took throughout my treatment. And my family and I, we kept laughing, we kept doing the things that we liked doing. We didn't let my diagnosis stop that. And they weren't sure right away that I had cancer. So I was in the hospital a lot, I was doing a lot of tests, which I know is not fun, but when your life is at stake, believe me, you get used to it. And they were going to do a biopsy on me. Does anyone, you know what a biopsy is? They basically go in, so they're going to cut into the back of my neck and take a piece of it was in the middle of my brain pushing on my optic nerve. And they were going to take a piece of the tumor out to see if it was cancerous. So there I am with my parents in the surgeon's office about to talk to him about what they were going to do, taking a little piece of my tumor out. And when you get brain surgery, you sign your life away. Like anything that goes wrong, you basically say, it's not the doctor's fault. But I wasn't scared. I was like, all right, they're going to do it, they're going to find out what it is. And one of the things I had to sign said, with all brain surgery, there is a slight possibility that the patient may undergo a severe personality change. And I showed that line to my parents, and I was like, yeah, you wish. And we went in, and he told us how they were going to do the surgery, and I was like, all right, let's just take care of this. And 3 days before, a few days, I don't know how many, before my surgery, they found a marker in my blood that is supposed to be, it's called alpha-fetoprotein, if you want to look it up. It's supposed to be around 15, and mine was like 800. So they knew. Good news was they knew what it was. Bad news was they knew it was cancer. So I started treatment, and I had VP16, carboplatinum, and bleomycin were my chemotherapy meds. And it wasn't fun. It sucked. But before I started treatment, they said you're going to need chemotherapy followed by radiation. And the day that I started my chemo treatment, that same doctor that was my neighbor that came across the street and told me to go to the hospital for my Crohn's, came into my room and he said, I've read a lot of studies that show that patients that visualize while they're getting treatment have higher success rates. So every time I got treatment, I closed my eyes and I pictured the chemo going into my veins, through my body, up into my brain, and fighting the cancer. And my visions were not friendly. The cancer really didn't have a chance. It didn't. And so that was the end of my senior year in high school is when I started treatment. So that whole summer before freshman year of college, I went through chemotherapy. And it was tough. It really ravaged my body. But I had my family supporting me, I had friends supporting me, we still went to the movies, we still went to the Red Sox. One time, back then, when you went to the movies, they would show Jimmy Fund commercials before the movies and then pass around. So like, we go to the movies and my friend would stand up and be like, oh, you can just give your money to this kid. So we had fun with it. We had fun with it as much as we could. And I got through it. And my doctors and family thought that I should take my first semester off from college and finish my treatment and then start the second semester. But I was like, I'm not letting cancer tell me when I can start college. So I went to Boston College. So my first weekend, while most of my freshman friends were going to their first home football game, I was getting my last round of chemotherapy. But I just wanted it over with. I was like, let's do this. And I finished my chemo, and a couple weeks later, I had to go back into the hospital and for a couple more weeks. So usually with chemo, the chemo is actually what makes you sick, which is kind of weird when you think about it. Like, I wasn't feeling sick, I just had headaches and double vision, and the chemo made me feel sick. But so I went back into the hospital, and then one day the radiologist came in and he met with me, and he said, "We're looking at your case, we're looking at your films, and you don't need radiation. You're done with your cancer treatment." And I really wasn't surprised. I was like, well, yeah, I knew this day was going to come. No big deal. But the doctors, they were like, "We don't know why you don't need radiation. We have no explanation. You just don't need radiation." And I wasn't going to argue with them. So my physical battle with cancer was over. But my mental and what else I could do to beat cancer even more was not over. It was just beginning. And I mentioned when I was going through chemo that I had, kept it positive, and I did all the fun things that I like to do, and I didn't let cancer get me down. Well, that all changed when I started drinking when I was in college. And that just, all those emotions that I was holding in when I was going through cancer came out when I was drinking. And I was angry, I was mad, and drinking was not a good way to battle cancer, believe me. I found out. In my junior year, a friend of mine graduated with me from St. John's, Danny Manning. His story is actually on the 1540 website. He passed away my junior year of college from leukemia, and that just fueled the fire of my drinking problem. And less than 6 months later, this kid, Justin, who I met in the hospital, he also passed away from cancer within 6 months. So I'm drinking, I'm not feeling good about cancer. 2 of my friends died from cancer, and I had to do something else. I had to stop what I was doing. So I stopped drinking, and I haven't had a drink in over 16 years. And the reason I bring up the drinking is because I wanted to fight cancer, but doing it while I was drinking wasn't helping. I was just getting angry about it. And so that brought me to, I worked, after I graduated college, I worked in special education. I was a special ed teacher. I worked in a lot of residential places. To give you an idea of the students that I taught, it was at a locked building. They had a lot of severe diagnosis, and we would watch a movie at the end of every week for the kids that basically went to class all week and didn't try to hurt someone. So imagine getting to watch a movie in school if you did that all week long. You'd probably all be watching it, I hope. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I was begging the lead teacher, I'm like, "Can we watch Star Wars one week? I'll make it educational, I promise you." And it's finally at the end of the year, she's like, "Fine, we can watch Star Wars." So we're watching Star Wars, and the kids are really getting into it. A lot of them hadn't seen it before. And at the end, when Luke is going to blow up the Death Star, and he hears Obi-Wan Kenobi say, "Use the Force, Luke," one of the kids, I'm not lying, said, "Oh my God, Luke hears voices just like I do." So that's the type of kids that I taught. So I did that for 10 years, and it was a good job, but I wanted to fight cancer. I always had this calling to do something more to fight cancer. And I went to the American Cancer Society website, and I found this place called Hope Lodge in Worcester. Has anyone heard of it? We give free rooms to cancer patients from all over the world who are getting treatment in local hospitals. So I started working at Hope Lodge. It's a great job. I get to interact with cancer patients, share my story with them, and it's a much better way for me to battle cancer. And this past summer, did you guys know the Relays for Life? Have you heard of them? I did a Relay for Life just for Hope Lodge, but at a hockey rink. So we skated for 24 hours and we played hockey, and it was really cool. So I've discovered a better way of battling cancer, and that's why I'm very honored to be part of the 1540 connection, to share my story with you, because I'm living proof that if you let symptoms go, it can get worse and worse and worse. And when the doctors finally do see you, it's a lot worse than if right when you're having symptoms, you go. And I learned from my Crohn's when I had cancer symptoms, and I went to the doctor right away. Let's see if I touched on anything. And that's my story. Does anyone have any questions?
First of all, yay!
Yes.